Look at the Flyers, brought to you by JC Motorsports, your truck accessory warehouse with the largest showroom in South Jersey. JC's got it. Dave Isaac, Courier Post. You can also read some of his stuff at 973ESPN.com. Are you a Molson or a Blue guy?
I'm an equal opportunity drinker, guys.
Good answer.
Both.
Good answer. Whatever Mike Gill's buying you, right? Whatever Mike Gill's buying you, Dave will drink it.
Anytime, Dave Isaac. All right, Flyers finally win in New York last night at Madison Square Garden. They get a shutout effort from Steve Mason. But, anytime we have a conversation, Dave, the goalie is always highlighted. That doesn't change where this team is at with the goalie, right? Or do you think Mason has turned the corner a bit?
Well, I think we need a little bit larger of a sample size to say that he's turned the corner, but it's encouraging. I mean, this team, there's always something with the goalies. Even when you think it's figured out, there's something with the goalies. I mean, coming into this year, it was supposed to be a tandem, and then Michael Neuvirth gets hurt and misses all that time, and it becomes pretty clear that he's just not able to withstand a full NHL season. So I think for that reason, the Flyers certainly won't trust him next year. For the rest of the season, we'll see how it goes. But a few weeks ago, Dave Haxtell says that he wants kind of a 1 and a 2, not a 1 and 1A situation. And he's tried both of those guys out in that spot. So I think they're still kind of searching for it. I think you'll probably see Neuvirth tonight only because it's a back-to-back. But I don't know if Steve Mason's figured it out. We've thought that before and been wrong. So we'll see. Now's the time of the year where if he is going to have turned it around, it better be now.
Dave, we're going to be at the All-Star break. The Flyers are going to be right on the cusp, which I guess is a little bit better situation than they were last year. But as you wrote about, will 95 points be enough for the Flyers to make the playoffs? I guess the one question will be, can the Flyers even get to that point? Do you think this is a team that's in that 95, 100-point range?
They would have to turn it up a little bit in the unofficial second half. I mean, it's tonight's game number 50, so it's a little bit beyond the halfway point. But they would have to accelerate things a little bit. Here's the weird thing: they're at the same point right now that they were last year in terms of points. It's just that everybody else was a little bit above them last year. So it's super close in the league now. And Steve Mason said after last night's win that it'll probably be the case like it was last night, where the Flyers go from out to in, and maybe by the next game they're out again and kind of have to keep scratching and clawing their way. So the reason why 95 was the number is because that's what Jake Voracek predicts is what it takes, is 95 points. The Flyers had 96 last year, I believe, to sneak in there. They would have to, turn it up in order to do that. But we've seen a lot of inconsistency in these first 49 games. So if they can figure things out a little bit, put together a 4-game win streak and not lose 5 in a row, then, they probably can do it.
Let's touch on that inconsistency, easy for me to say a little bit, Dave, because last night I think that was another game where the Flyers in the first period, I mean, they couldn't get a shot on goal. It looked like they could hardly generate any puck possession or any offense, and yet they go on and win the hockey game. Is the only thing that's consistent about this team that they are inconsistent?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the only reason that game was still there in the third period was Steve Mason. That first period, the Flyers were absolutely on their heels. They were giving the Rangers way too much space. They're a really fast team that can burn almost anybody, and the Flyers have been burned quite a bit this year, but they were just giving them the most of the ice. Whenever they did get a puck deep, they just retreated and gave them the neutral zone and gave them an easy, controlled entry into the offensive zone and got a few good looks at Steve Mason. So eventually they tightened things up and they started playing with a little bit more aggressiveness, and I think obviously that paid off for them. But this is a team where you really don't know what team is showing up on any given night, and the Flyers have had really good wins and then fallen apart in the next game. But they've also been really good in the second half of back-to-back, so we'll see what happens here. The last time that they played Toronto was certainly forgettable. So, there's super inconsistent, and we'll see who shows up tonight.
Right, 8-4-1 in the first half of back-to-backs. Better, like you said, in the second half of back-to-backs. One of the intermissions last night, they had Bob McKenzie on, and of course the trade deadline is approaching. So he threw out guys like Strike, Delzato, Schultz, Belmar, Vandevelde, who all have expiring contracts. If the Flyers make a move, who are some of the guys you think we might be saying goodbye to?
I think the defenseman for sure. Strike and Delzato would probably get you the biggest return, but I don't think it would be that's a relative term. I don't think it would be a big return by any stretch. I don't even think you would get what they got for Kimmo Timonen, which was 2 second-round picks. Michael Delzato's had a really kind of poor year, I think. The beginning of it was not what he wanted in terms of starting the year injured, and now he's a little bit banged up again, but his defending hasn't really been there. The points have kind of been there for him, but the defending hasn't. And Mark Strike, 38 years old, maybe somebody wants a quarterback on their second power play unit, but a guy with a $5.25 million cap hit, I think it's more likely that the Flyers would have to eat some of that contract than it is that they would get a really good asset in return.
Dave Isaac's with us. Leafs are 9-0-2 in their last 11 road games. They'll be in Philly tonight. Dave, as we mentioned, All-Star break, Flyers 24-19-6. But what's been the most disappointing thing at the midway, All-Star break? Something that you thought was going to be better about this team that hasn't lived up to it.
Well, the easy answer there is the inconsistency. But even from the beginning of the year till now, I think, and in years past, they had shown that they could come back in games when they were down. And it seems like the past month or so, it doesn't even need to be a 1-goal deficit. It could just be a power play with a few shots against, and it seems like an insurmountable feat. The Flyers can't come back from it. So that killer instinct, that comeback mentality, that's really been lacking from this team. And them getting the first goal has been super rare. Obviously, it happened last night, but it hasn't happened on too many occasions. So I think the team's lack of ability to play from behind has been surprising to me because they had done it in the past.
Dave, you look at the team they're playing tonight in Toronto, very young, but 9-0-2 in their last 11 road games. They're 5-1-1 in their last 7 games. We talked to Danny Briere about this on Tuesday, whether he thinks, that the league is getting younger, that the Flyers should consider utilizing some more of their young talent. Do you think there are some younger guys who are not being utilized that could help this team out?
That aren't on the roster already, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Stan Moran has been in a situation where he probably could be in this league, and you never know what you have until you try him out. But there have been so many defensemen up here at the NHL level that it's kept him from getting. I mean, they've carried so many guys this year, they haven't even recalled a defenseman for injury, and they've been injury prone all year long. He's a guy that probably could play at this level. You have to see it in order to prove it, but I think he's probably ready for that. And I would be surprised if next year he and Travis Sanheim weren't both here. I think they'll come up as a pair. They've been a pair with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms all year. They don't have very many offensive prospects. I think that the one that you'll see next year is Oscar Lindblom. He's over tearing up the Swedish league. Yeah, they've got some pieces, and Toronto's certainly proving. I mean, half their roster is rookies that you can win with young guys. But I also think that a big reason why Toronto's winning is their goaltender, Frederik Andersen, who played last night and won't be between the pipes tonight. But that's been a big part of it for them is strong goaltending. The Flyers haven't had reliable goaltending, and that makes young players not look so great. It makes everybody not look so great. But the young guys, when they make mistakes and your goaltender's not saving shots that he should, then everybody really looks bad.
They haven't had reliable goaltending in my life, Pete.
The Flyers?
Ever. I'm
Well,
40.
look,
I've never seen one.
Just take this stat. Mason's win was his 94th last night with the Flyers. He's number 3 on the all-time list.
I saw that last night.
Hextall, Perrant, and then Mason. For Mason to be that far, that fast, that soon tells you that it's a revolving cast of characters. It's like the drummer in Spinal Tap. Don't think you're going to be secure for very long. Dave, I want to ask you, Gil's asking you about guys who aren't on the roster yet. I want to ask you about a guy who's on the roster, but not necessarily always on the ice. He's had to watch from the press box a lot. You wrote about him today, and that's Nick Cousins. Has he figured out, or has Dave Haxtell figured out the role for Nick Cousins on this team?
I'm not sure. I think he's thought that he had in the past. It's an interesting dynamic because there's not a lot of communication, not as much as fans would think, between a coach and a player who's not playing. It's really, you show up, you either see your name on the roster or you don't, and that's kind of it. So I think the lack of communication is not a good thing. I think that would help Nick Cousins, even though Dave Haxtell called him self-sufficient. I think it would help anybody to know why they're not in the lineup. And he's referred to Cousins as just being part of a numbers game where his game was good enough. He wasn't taken out on merit. But I think that Nick Cousins has been okay wherever they've put him. He's one of those versatile guys, and that's become a prerequisite to play for the Flyers because everybody goes everywhere. They change lines so often. I think that on where he is now, on Sean Couturier's wing, you need somebody like that to play with Sean Couturier. And last night in the first period, the Flyers could have had a goal. Sean Couturier goes in on a 2-on-1 with Matt Reed, and he comes in so slow that a back checker catches up to him. He doesn't even get a shot off. Nick Cousins has some speed. He could have darted in there and at least gotten a shot off. Whether he beats Lundqvist or not, you don't know. But he brings an element of speed, and he's got this ability. He's got the hands that make him a legitimate player, but he's still got that ability. He's Zach Ronaldo with a brain, basically, because he can get under guys' skin, but he also has the ability to play. Also,
he's a Hall of Fame yapper. I do know that.
At Dave G. Isaac on Twitter, Flyers and Leafs before the All-Star break. Listen to it tonight on 97.3. Thanks, pal.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Dave
care,
Isaac.
Dave.
He'll drink a Molson or a Labatt.
Whatever you're buying. If you're buying it, Mike Gill, he's drinking.